People in town used to say the Hart Mansion was the quietest place in all of Connecticut. Not peaceful quiet, but the kind that feels heavy, like a memory nobody wants to talk about. The kind of silence that crawls under your skin. Inside that enormous brick house, with its white fences and perfectly trimmed lawn, lived Olivia Hart, only 28, wealthy, poised, beautifully put together, yet carrying a sadness older than her age. A sadness that had turned her home into a place where sound simply didn't belong. It all began 8 years ago, on the day her daughter Shaya came into the world. A fragile little girl with dark curls, wide eyes, and a quiet so absolute the doctors called it incurable, born deaf. Nothing we can do, they had said. But Olivia had money, influence, and a mother's stubborn hope. She flew Shaya to New York, Boston, Switzerland, Tokyo, every specialist she could find. Each one left her with the same cold answer: "I'm sorry, this child will never hear." And so the mansion stayed quiet. No cartoons on Saturday mornings, no music from the kitchen, no giggles rolling down the hallway. Just Olivia walking from room to room, holding a coffee cup she never finished, checking on her daughter in the soft glow of a nightlight, wishing, praying went for a miracle she no longer believed in. Then something strange started happening. Shaya, who rarely reacted to anything, began touching her right ear, wincing, pressing her small hand against it with a look Olivia couldn't understand. Was it pain, fear, or something worse? And why, after 8 silent years, did the house suddenly feel like it was waiting for something? One evening, Olivia stood in the doorway of her daughter's room, watching Shaya curl up with her stuffed rabbit, her face tight with discomfort. That was the first night Olivia whispered into the darkness, "Baby, what's happening to you?" A question that would soon unravel the biggest secret her perfect American life had been built upon. The next morning, the mansion woke up the same way it always did, quietly, like it was holding its breath. Olivia rushed through her routine, coffee in hand, hair pulled into a neat bun, eyes tired but determined. Nothing unusual until the new worker arrived. His name was Victor Deer, 27, tall, soft-spoken, with warm brown eyes that carried the kind of weight only life can give you. He drove an old Ford pickup that coughed when it stopped, and he apologized for the noise. Funny, considering the house he worked in barely tolerated sound at all. Mrs. Patterson, the head housekeeper, gave him the usual rule book. No wandering, no personal questions, and absolutely no interacting with Miss Shea. Victor nodded respectfully, but rules were easier said than followed. Because later that afternoon, while cleaning the back patio, Victor saw a small figure sitting alone on the wooden steps. Shaya, hugging her stuffed rabbit so tightly it looked like she was trying to stop the world from slipping away. She didn't look up at him, but she winced, the same way Olivia had seen the night before, pressing her tiny palm against her right ear, her expression tight with discomfort. Victor froze. He'd seen that face before. On his younger cousin Marcus, the boy everyone thought was deaf until a doctor discovered a deep blockage in his ear canal. Marcus had spent 6 silent years, not because he couldn't hear, but because no one had looked closely enough. And in that moment, standing on the sunlit patio, with the smell of fresh-cut grass around him, Victor felt something stir inside his chest. A quiet alarm, a whisper of intuition he couldn't ignore. Something was wrong with that little girl. Terribly wrong. And he was the only one who seemed to notice. Victor didn't mean to get close. He really didn't. People like him, young, broke, juggling 2 jobs and visiting his grandmother in a nursing home every weekend, didn't mix with families like the Harts. But life has a way of pulling the right people toward the right pain. It started with something small. One afternoon, while cleaning the hallway, Victor folded a scrap of paper into a tiny paper airplane, a silly habit from his childhood. He left it on the table near Shaya's art supplies, not expecting anything. The next morning, he found the airplane in the exact same spot, except now it had a tiny smiley face drawn on the wing. Shaya had drawn it. Victor felt a warmth he couldn't quite explain. Over the next few days, their quiet exchange grew into something almost magical. A small origami star, a doodle of a rabbit, a single blue crayon left near his toolbox. It wasn't much, but it was connection. One afternoon, while Victor trimmed the roses in the garden, Shaya appeared again. Barefoot, timid, holding her stuffed rabbit by one ear. She didn't look at him directly, but she stepped just close enough that he could hear her soft breathing. She touched her chest with 2 fingers, then pressed those same fingers gently against his arm. It was a gesture so delicate, so intentional, that Victor's heart tightened. He didn't know sign language, she didn't know how to speak. But somehow they understood each other. Inside the house, Olivia watched from the window, surprised, hesitant, and for the first time in months, hopeful. The strange thing about pain is how quietly it hides. Victor saw it again a few mornings later, as he passed through the hallway outside Shaya's room. The door was open just enough to see her curled on her side in bed, one hand tucked beneath her pillow, the other pressed tightly against her right ear. Not like she was blocking out sound, more like she was holding something in. That same wince, that same quiet discomfort. Victor stood frozen, his broom in hand, heart pounding. He knew that look. It haunted him. His cousin Marcus had spent years like that, teachers labeling him slow, other kids teasing him for not answering. It wasn't until a school nurse took a flashlight and looked deep inside that ear canal that everything changed. There was something there. A blockage no one had noticed, no one had bothered to notice. Victor swallowed hard. Could it be the same? He couldn't shake the thought, even as he polished doorknobs and wiped down windows. Every time Shaya appeared, at the edge of a room, near the garden steps, hiding behind her mother's skirt, he noticed the same thing. She was in pain, and no one else seemed to see it. One evening, as the sky turned that soft orange pink of early spring, Victor sat alone on the back porch steps, elbows on knees, fingers laced. The house behind him glowed gold in the dusk, picture perfect. But inside, a little girl couldn't sleep, and he couldn't ignore it anymore. He whispered into the empty yard, voice low, voice steady, "God, if you want me to help her, I'll do it. Just give me the strength." He didn't know what it meant yet, but something deep in his gut told him. This wasn't a coincidence. Victor couldn't sleep that night. The mansion was quiet, as always, but his thoughts were loud. Louder than the crickets outside, louder than the wind brushing the oak trees beyond the garden. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Shaya's face, that tiny wince, the way she pressed her ear like it hurt to be alive inside her head. He kept thinking, what if it's like Marcus? What if there's something stuck deep inside and no one ever checked? But then reality hit like a brick wall. He wasn't a doctor. He wasn't family. He was just a part-time groundskeeper sleeping in a basement room with peeling paint and a tiny Bible on the nightstand. If he said something, would they believe him? If he touched that child, even with the best intentions, he could lose everything. His job, his paycheck, his grandmother's place at the nursing home. She was already 3 months behind. Victor sat up in bed, ran his hands over his face and stared at the ceiling like it had answers. It didn't. In the darkness, he whispered to himself, if I stay silent, she stays hurting. If I speak up, I lose everything. So what do I do, Lord? No answer came, just the ticking of the small wall clock. Tick, 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 the same sound Shaya had never heard. That thought broke him a little. He looked at his hands, rough, calloused, but willing. And he made a promise right then and there. If she cries again, if she shows that pain again, I won't ignore it. I don't care what it costs me. I won't ignore it. The scream never came. It was the silence that told Victor something was wrong. He was sweeping the back hallway when he heard the thud. Soft, dull, like a pillow hitting wood. No glass broke, no furniture shifted. Just a sound that didn't belong in a house built on stillness. He dropped the broom. By the time he turned the corner, Shaya was crumpled on the floor by the garden doors, her small frame curled tight, both hands pressed hard against her right ear. Her face was twisted in pain, not crying, not wailing, just frozen, like her body didn't even know how to release it. Victor's chest clenched. He dropped to his knees beside her. "Shaya," he said softly, his voice cracking. "Sweetheart, it's okay. I'm here." She opened her eyes slowly, red and glassy. She didn't make a sound, just kept shaking her head. Her lips moved, but no voice came out. Victor gently signed what little he'd learned from her. "Can I look? Just look. Please?" She hesitated. Then slowly she nodded. Victor turned her face toward the window light, and there it was. Deep inside her ear, something dark, dense, blocking everything. His breath caught. He'd been right. The pain, the wincing, the silence. All of it made sense now. And in that split second, as he looked at the blockage and then at the terrified child in his arms, Victor realized this was no longer about permission. This was about doing what no one else had dared. Victor's hands trembled. Not from fear, not exactly, but from the weight of the moment pressing down on his chest like a stone. He looked again at the blockage deep inside Shea's ear. Thick, compact, just like Marcus's had been. There was no time, no doctor, no permission slip. Just a child in pain and a man who couldn't unsee what he'd seen. He whispered, "It's okay, baby, I'm going to help you now." She didn't flinch. She simply blinked once, then closed her eyes, trusting him completely. Like some part of her already knew he wasn't going to hurt her. Victor raced to the guest bathroom, grabbed tweezers and rubbing alcohol. He washed his hands twice, heart pounding like a war drum. Back in the hallway, he knelt beside Shia, bathed her ear gently with warm water, and whispered prayers under his breath. "Please, God, guide me. Don't let me mess this up." He angled the light from his phone, steadied his breath, and reached in. Slow, careful, gentle. It took less than 30 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. The dark plug slid out. Wax, dust, maybe years of it. As soon as it cleared, Shea gasped. Her eyes flew open, and then she sat up, frozen. The old grandfather clock down the hall ticked. Tick. She turned toward the sound, eyes wide as saucers. Tick. A tear slipped down her cheek. Then her lips parted, and the softest, most fragile voice broke the mansion's silence. "Mom?" Victor dropped the tweezers. For the first time in her life, Shea had heard something. And for the first time in his life, Victor had made a miracle happen. The sound of footsteps came fast, heels against hardwood, sharp and panicked. Olivia had been upstairs reviewing Shea's medical records again when something deep in her chest told her to come down. That mother's instinct, the one that doesn't knock, it kicks. She turned the corner and froze. Victor was on his knees. Her daughter was on the floor. Tweezers, a bloody tissue. Shea's face pale, her lips parted in shock. And in that single second, Olivia didn't see the miracle. She saw a stranger hovering over her child, a man who wasn't supposed to be there. "What the hell is going on?" Her voice cracked through the air like thunder. Shea flinched. Victor stood up slowly, hands raised. "Please, Miss Hart, just listen." "Don't move," she screamed. "Security, now!" Within seconds, the guards stormed in. Big, uniformed, no questions asked. They grabbed Victor's arms, yanked him back. Shea cried out, reaching for him. "No, no, don't take him." Her voice was hoarse, new but real. Everyone stopped. Olivia stared at her daughter, frozen, breathless. What did you just say?" But the moment passed too quickly. The guards took Victor away, rough and cold. Shea cried. Olivia didn't move. She had just heard her daughter speak for the first time, and she had just sent the man who made it happen to the basement holding room. Because sometimes when fear speaks louder than truth, love can look like danger. The hospital smelled like bleach and old coffee. Olivia hated it already. She paced outside the exam room, arms crossed, stomach in knots. Shea sat inside with two nurses, wide-eyed and silent again. Not because she couldn't speak, but because she was scared to. Dr. Matthews, a pediatric ENT specialist, finally stepped out, holding a clipboard and wearing an expression Olivia couldn't read. "Mrs. Hart," he said gently, "your daughter's is hearing just fine. Her right ear had a significant blockage. Wax buildup, possibly years old. We removed what was left. She's processing sound. It's real." Olivia blinked. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "There's more. I reviewed her previous records. 3 years ago, a radiology report flagged possible canal obstruction. A note was made recommending an in-person scope exam. But," he flipped the page, "no follow-up, no action taken. The system failed her." Olivia felt her knees buckle. She remembered that hospital visit. Shea had a cold. They rushed the appointment. The doctors had smiled politely, told her to keep hoping. Hope? They never followed up, and Olivia never questioned them. Until a groundskeeper did. Her face flushed with shame. Tears blurred her vision. "Victor," she whispered. She'd screamed at him, had him dragged away like a criminal. And all this time, he had been right. Shea didn't need a miracle. She needed someone who cared enough to see what others didn't. Victor sat on a cold bench in the mansion's basement holding room, hands cuffed loosely in front of him, a bruise forming on his right wrist. He didn't fight back. He didn't explain. No one had asked him to. He just stared at the floor, exhausted, heartbroken, but strangely calm. He'd done what he was meant to do. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. He looked up. Olivia Hart. No security, no clipboard. Just her. Hair messy, face blotchy from crying, her heels uneven on the cement floor. She looked nothing like the pristine woman who ruled the estate. She looked like a mother who'd just been humbled by truth. Victor, she whispered, voice raw. I was wrong. He didn't move. She took a shaky breath and dropped to her knees in front of him. I judged you. I feared you. I let my fear hurt you, and I let it hurt my daughter. Tears slid down her cheeks. You gave her something no one else could. You saw her. You believed in her. I can't undo what I did. But I'm begging you. Please forgive me. Victor stared at her for a long moment, then quietly said, I didn't do it for thanks. I did it because no child should be ignored like that. Olivia nodded, broken. Victor added gently, but yeah, I forgive you. In the quiet that followed, for the first time in weeks, neither of them felt alone. It didn't happen all at once. Healing, after all, isn't loud. It's slow, it's quiet, it's earned. Shea didn't wake up the next day singing songs or shouting in joy. No, she whispered. Practiced, tried, failed, tried again. Each syllable came out crooked, like pebbles in her mouth. But she kept going. Olivia sat beside her every afternoon, flashcards in hand, repeating simple words like cat, yes, love. Sometimes Shaya got frustrated and threw the cards. Sometimes she laughed. Sometimes she cried. And so did Olivia. There were sticky notes on every cabinet, every window, every mirror in the house. Door, lamp, smile, words waiting to be claimed. Victor stayed. Not because Olivia asked, not at first, but because Shea wanted him there. She'd tug at his sleeve during meals, curl beside him on the back porch, draw him pictures that said, thank you, in shaky learning letters. One morning, Olivia came outside with 2 cups of coffee and sat next to him on the porch swing. Will you stay? She asked quietly. Not as staff, not as a worker, just stay, as someone she trusts. Victor looked at her surprised. Then he smiled, eyes warm. I already did. The wind rustled the oak trees. Birds chirped in the distance. Inside the house, for the first time in years, there was music. Spring melted into summer. The Hart Mansion, once quiet as a museum, now buzzed with something new. Not noise exactly, but life. A girl's laughter. Music drifting from the kitchen, the scrape of sidewalk chalk on the driveway. Shea's voice still cracked sometimes. Her words came slowly, carefully, as if each one was a precious stone she was learning to shape. But she spoke, and she listened. She especially loved the wind chimes Olivia had hung outside her bedroom window. Every morning she'd wake up to that soft, shimmering sound and whisper, I can hear you. Victor never moved back to the basement. He had his own room now, across the hall from Shea's. And every Friday he made pancakes shaped like animals. Bad ones. Lopsided ears, broken tails. But Shea called them perfect. Olivia had stopped asking herself what people would think. Her world had shifted, from polished control to honest connection. And oddly, in that messiness, she found peace. Sometimes when she passed Victor in the hallway, she'd just smile and say, thank you for showing me what I couldn't see. He always answered the same way. She's the miracle, not me. But they both knew better. It wasn't just about ears and doctors. It wasn't about hearing. It was about being heard, about someone, finally, seeing a little girl not as broken, but as whole, and doing something about it. Now, a question for you. Have you ever misjudged someone, only to realize later they were your greatest blessing? Do you believe that sometimes the people we need most come from the places we least expect? Leave your thoughts in the comments, because maybe you have a Victor in your life too, or maybe you are someone else's miracle. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We tell true feeling stories, the kind that heal, the kind that stay with you. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. Thank you for listening. See you in the next story.